Thanks for having us here in your beautiful restaurant.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, it's been great so far. I can't wait to learn more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself and the restaurant you have here and how it all began.
All right. Yeah, so I'm in a few different fields. I am a farmer. I'm also a chef. I do cook as well, although I have a great team working with me. I'm also a designer and an educator. So I started off in design and then education. And I founded a large internet company, an online school of design called Sessions in 1996, I believe, quite a while ago.
Wow.
Still around, doing well. And then I ended up getting into restaurant business in 2003. And one of the things that I found disappointing as I was starting out cooking and opening a restaurant was the quality of the food and not really knowing where it came from. So that what led me to do something kind of crazy at that time, because that's over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was to open a farm, start a farm and really start agriculture with cattle and sheep and chickens and
the whole shebang.
Quail and guinea hens and everything. Yep, it was a big undertaking and quite brutal. But that's how we ended up getting into farm to table. Essentially, a movement that we may not have started, but we were certainly among the earliest ones around.
Yeah, trailblazers for sure. 10 years ago, that's absolutely true. Amazing. So tell us a little bit more about the relationship between the farm that you opened and where we're sitting here right now.
Well, so the restaurant existed before the agriculture started with this location. And we since also opened a second farm. So we actually operate two farms upstate because we needed different kinds of soil quality, different kind of pastures, and different kinds of products and produce and different kinds of livestock. So we have two farms for that reason. This was a Smorgasbord chef restaurant about 6 years ago when we decided that we wanted to make the connection between the farm and the products that we were growing there more immediate to our guests, and that's why we wanted to name the restaurant as we called the farm. Blenheim.
Blenheim.
Yeah.
Nice. Blenheim.
So you can say both Blenheim and Blenheim.
Blenheim.
So I believe in Britain where the term or the name comes from originally, it's called Blenheim.
Blenheim.
Yep. And then in the town of North Blenheim, where we are located, they say Blenheim.
Yeah. I like it both ways.
Yeah, exactly. We alternate.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So you obviously are practicing an amazing amount of sustainability by providing your own food, growing your own food, providing it here. Does that sustainability ethos that you practice go beyond just the food? And if so, how is it that you guys are demonstrating that?
In many ways, and sustainability, to be clear, is a concept that refers to whether or not something can sustain itself.
Right.
And that goes to financially, and it goes to environmentally, and there are a number of other things that also relate to sustainability as well. So that's both important to us. We want to be stewards of the land that we farm on. So we have virtually unlimited forest areas for our pigs to roam. We grass feed our cattle and sheep. So there are a number of things that we do that regenerate growth within the land that we have. We do not destroy our land like factory farms and feedlots do. That's one part of sustainability. The other part of sustainability is that we're able to break even and employ people in the farming operations and the restaurants operations that we have, and make it feasible and economical for our guests to eat here as well. So that can often be difficult because it's so costly to farm in a way that we do.
Yeah. Before we started filming here, you were telling us a little bit about your vertical structure and also how you're saving on packaging and labeling and all of that too. And I think that's another huge way that you guys are...
We're entrepreneurs, so we're very agile. So like many others that don't exist anymore, that tried out this, we are still around because we found ways to do this in a way that became financially sustainable. And one of those ways was to become vertically integrated. And what vertically integrated means is that we're involved in every aspect up the vertical chain of the product that we're producing, serving, selling, making. Even from curating the soil that we plant the seed in, we make the soil as well with manure and compost and things. So they take several years to bring the soil up to the quality that we want for growing it. So that's vertically integrated. But one of the financial benefits of it is that we are not growing for the farmers markets. We're not growing for other restaurants. We don't have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning in some places and go to the market and sell our goods. We don't have packaging. We don't have to have collections, people calling and getting their bills paid for the produce that we sell, because it all goes to our own restaurants. We can use recyclable packaging because it doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to have labeling or any of that on it either. So we believe that we're cutting probably more like 50 to 60% of the cost that would have been associated with putting this food on the table in our restaurant. We're cutting that out by being vertically integrated.
Wow, that's amazing. Literally the definition of sustainability, self-sustainability.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more of a, it became a necessity, I guess, if we were to stick around, if we were to be able to continue to do what we were doing, this is how we had to do it to make it happen.
It's amazing. You've learned to adapt to succeed, and it's really unheard of. I mean, literally from the soil, as you've mentioned, to even the design of your restaurant. If I'm understanding correctly, you're the designer as well. Every single thing is born out of you and your partner's amazing minds and hard work.
That's part of what we enjoy about it. I love cooking, design, and farming, and I feel really blessed that I am actually able to do some of that almost every day of my work week.
It's amazing. You've married all of your passions into one amazing establishment. Can you talk to us a little bit about your grow to order system and I guess why you chose to run your restaurant that way?
Right, so that comes back to the same concept as I just discussed earlier, and that is by growing to order, we're being very specific about what we expect to be using throughout the entire season.
Right.
So but it comes with a lot of complexity in terms of data and math and understanding how much you're planting and in what way and when does it need to be recurring to keep the flow of a certain product coming to the restaurants and to our venues upstate that we also grow for. Grown to order is a trial and error kind of experiment. So we find out what are we successful at growing, and we grow almost 200 different crops at the farm, including some that we actually just forage and harvest from nature, so like mushrooms and mints and sorrels and various edible flowers and plants that we use in the food, as part of what we use. But we find out how much we need and how much we use from previous seasons, how fast they grow, how much they yield, and that's an important exercise when you're vertically integrated, because we don't want to have too much and we don't want to have too little, because we need to service exactly what our needs are.
Right.
And that's why we're growing to order.
Yeah, so it takes a lot of work and time, and we like to talk to our community, and it is true that practicing sustainability on an individual level is not as difficult as it's made out to be. However, you make a good point. Running something like this that is truly so sustainable from top to bottom, It takes a lot of effort, and it's not
Yeah,
necessarily
it's,
easy.
Farming with spreadsheets.
Yeah.
So, no, it's a lot of
Incredible.
it is very, very difficult, and I wasn't a farmer when I got into this 10 years ago, so it was a big learning curve. I remember I had an injured pig on a Sunday night at the farm. I had to do surgery by myself. And I figured out how to do it with just YouTube videos.
Oh my gosh.
I could not get the vet to come out at that hour, and I would be concerned if the pig would die. And ultimately it became a delicious pork chop. But I also want to take good care of the animals while they're at the farm, so I had to figure out how to do surgery by myself. Yeah.
Wow, that is incredible.
Yeah, so that it's quite an adventure to become a farmer.
It sounds like it. Holy moly. That's an anecdote that I was not expecting to hear today. It's incredible. Amazing. So let's talk a little bit about the menu, which you have here in front of you.
Yeah,
And I'm like, my mouth is watering looking at it.
Yeah.
Just, I guess, can you highlight some, I don't know, I know it's impossible to ask people their favorite anything practically,
right.
but
And I often get that question: how many percent of the food that you serve in this farm to table restaurant is grown by us? And over the years I found it difficult sort of to answer that question, but generally it comes down to, in some cases 100%, and in other cases 0%. So we don't grow pineapple and vanilla in the Catskills. It would be very hard. Also doesn't make any sense for us to grow potatoes because they do that really well in Idaho. And then there are other things that we're really good at and that we're growing almost all of our supplies. And then there are like pigs, for example, and our pork is generally, we have a fairly large production of pork, so we have some part of our pork products on the menu are always from the farm throughout the year. Then there are other meat products like our beef, which are belted Galloways from Scotland, and our sheep. So they're more seasonal because when we're harvesting an animal, we'll have lots of it for a period of time, and then we would have to go to other farmers and other markets to get it in the season that we don't have it, or in the period that we don't have it.
Interesting. So is there a particularly favorite season that for your menu that you have an item that you were just like looking forward to year round?
The entire summer, So in the winter we have quite a bit of root vegetables like artichokes, sunchokes, Jerusalem artichokes, which we grow a lot of, and we have some beets and carrots and some things like that will come with us into the season a little bit. But then it comes down to mostly like eggs, quail eggs, and some sprouts and shoots that we also continue to grow into the winter season, and our meats. But beyond that, there's little that we grow.
Right.
It's winter wonderland at our farm right now.
Right.
Deep snow.
Yeah.
So we there's not so much growing taking place in terms of lettuces or herbs and things like that.
Right.
At the moment. Yeah.
We're waiting for spring to come to melt it all away. Absolutely.
So some things that we have on the menu right now, for example,
please. Let me
we raise Icelandic sheep on pasture. They live outdoors winter and summer. They have small huts that they can go into, but they generally sit in deep snow all winter, and they're super hardy and love the outdoors, and that's why their meat is super lean and fresh tasting. It's also a smaller framed animal, so much of the domestic lamb is kind of large, and maybe that is also because they let them grow a little longer before they harvest them. So it's a really tender and beautiful product that we have, and we had already lamb born this season. They're so gorgeous. So a little earlier than usual, but that's good because now you don't have parasites on the ground that sometimes can be a problem. So it is actually nice to have them born when it's cold. So
interesting.
We had chops earlier, so now we're down to shepherd's pie. So we use every part of the animal, in
That's huge.
sequence of what we have. So the most popular period is when we do the chops and the loin and those kinds of things
Sure,
on the
makes
menu.
sense.
That goes like really quick, and it's like a week it's gone.
Wow.
And then the ground and the shank and things that follows that. And now we're down to shepherd's pie which is ground, and it's really good with the mashed potatoes on top. A very classic, not fancy, but really delicious kind of food. So that's from the farm. We also have pork 3 ways. So that's another way that we try to incorporate all the different parts of the animal. So in this particular case, we're doing the belly and the loin, and also some ham that comes around one of the items on the dish. So all 3 products are from the same pig.
Wow.
Yeah. So that comes from the farm right about around now. We have an arugula fennel avocado salad with pickled quail eggs.
Ooh.
We have an whole army of quail at the farm, and they're surprisingly extremely productive in the winter. So they're just like keep producing millions of quail eggs.
Amazing.
So we can have a year-round supply of quail eggs, which is delicious. Yeah.
So fascinating.
So so those we also have a pulled pork taco as well, as a sort of a small bite here, which is really good. That's also from the farm.
Getting our viewers' mouths watering.
Yeah. The burger actually is with our own beef, so that's sort of the last remaining part of our beef from that particular cow, because we slaughter one cow at a time.
Right. Yes.
So
that's amazing. So
Yeah.
it sounds like your menu is changing very, very often. How often would you say it's?
It does change fairly often, but that's more to make it exciting, and also obviously seasonally. Obviously, we want to whenever something comes into season, we want to feature it, even if it's not our season, because we're not growing rhubarb right now. But if it's coming into season, maybe further south, we might incorporate it into the menu as well, because we have to create an interesting dining experience, even when we're not growing as many things. So
Makes sense. So I'm curious, this farm sounds just delightful. Is it possible for people to visit your farm?
In a couple of different ways. So we have people that are coming, the media might want to come, and but we also host weddings for couples that want to get married.
Beautiful.
In this enormously beautiful setting, and also eating food that is even fresher than it is here, because we bring it from the field, which is right outside the barn, and onto the plate in a matter of minutes before the guests walk into the dining
fresh
room.
Talk about fresh.
So that is as fresh as it can possibly get.
Seriously. Literally farm to table.
And that part of the operation also came with some challenges. So all the cooks and the team of chefs and cooks and folks at the farm have multiple roles as well. So they're very involved in the agriculture part during the week. And then on the weekends, when they're actually cooking for people, then that's their role in the kitchen. So that's important. And while it's a necessity to keep people employed full time, it's also beneficial in that they really care and love the food that they're handling, because they actually grew it from seed as well. Yeah. So.
Of course, it might sound corny, but it's like you can taste the love. You know what I mean?
You can definitely both taste it and feel it.
Definitely.
And it makes those who work with it happier, I think, as well. Yeah.
Sounds
it doesn't come up off a truck.
Right.
You actually cut it and picked it and brought it in.
Right, and that really changes things. Definitely, the energy, and that's amazing.
And our couples who get married see that, and that's why they want to come to the farm.
It sounds magical. Yeah. That sounds magical. Sign me up.
Yeah.
So, let us close off with, do you have like a favorite sustainability tip or something you can leave us with that changed your life or might change ours?
I think that what I'd like to say to people is that, and you kind of mentioned that it's very, very easy to live sustainably. In many ways, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And for some and for many, it is a question of financial viability as well.
Definitely.
Can someone afford to eat sustainably? And does it make sense for some that might not have access to these products close to their house? So what I usually say is that it is easier than you might think. And it is worthwhile to make that extra effort in your life to go out and seek it and cook with it and dine at places that you know work this way, because you are supporting that movement, not only supporting the movement, but you're also taking care of yourself, because your own health depends on what you're putting in your system, and some of the foods that are out there are downright toxic. And
absolutely true.
yeah, so it even if it's not the easiest thing, it's worthwhile, and people should make that extra effort.
I couldn't agree more. It can be seen as a bit of a privilege to be entirely sustainable, that's for sure, but at least to investigate the ways in which you can participate that's where...
And I believe everyone can participate in a small way or in a big way, even if that means that you have to travel a little bit outside of your way, and you have to cook things a little bit differently, or you have to order things a little bit differently. But it shouldn't necessarily have to be that much more costly if you try.
It's true. Like you, blazing the trails for the rest of us.
Yep.
Thank you so
Hopefully
much
benefiting. Thank you
for all the work that you do and for having us here in your beautiful restaurant.
I appreciate it.
I
and
hope to
hopefully
visit your farm soon.
Yep, you're welcome to come anytime.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Morten.
you're welcome.